You better watch out if your enemies are road ahead of full prophecy to be the greatest beast the world has ever seen. I feed him every day like the bones clean. I feed him all the hate and he blows me. And he gets caught real big, pissed off quick. And if you cross him, you might drop dead. Metaphorically, of course, settling the score. Never getting bored, lots of blood and gore. Always wanting more freedom from the source. They don't really listen until they feel the force of party. And if you start shit, you be heartless in the darkness. Torn apart quick, you left scars ripped. You be chewed up and discarded. And this world ain't right, won't accept it. Negative energy, I expect it. Once it's in your mind, it's infectious. So fight for your life and reject it. You better give me...
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Sunday episode of The Voice of Reason. I hope everybody's having a fantastic weekend, despite the fact that our country is an actual dumpster fire at the moment. But we're not going to talk about that just yet.
We've had some nice weather, I guess, unless you're in Tornado Alley. But other than that, whatever.
Yeah, no kidding. That's crazy. It's been cold where I'm at. I'm like, man, the year's almost half over, and it's still barely breaking into the 60s where I'm at.
It's actually been nice here for a few days.
Yeah, and I have like seasonal. I think I'm solar powered. So like when it's cloudy for multiple days at a time, I'm just like,
Are you cold-blooded, dude? You're actual cold-blooded.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So we have a special show for you today, as I had promised throughout the week. Very special guest with us today. We're going to talk about, well, a lot of things, because there is so much going on, and we always like having a fresh opinion on topics that we may have already previously discussed. But there's also been a lot going on. I know I've covered a lot on my lives this week, so some of the stuff we talk about may be repetitive, but getting multiple opinions on the same topic is
what's important?
Always a good idea.
What's important is not doing what the mainstream media is, which if they cover anything, which they don't, they mention it for about 30 seconds and never mention it again. So part of the overwhelming never-ending fight that we're going to have is the information has to keep flowing. You can't just mention it as a blip and forget it. You know, you got to keep talking about the things that are worth talking about. And
right.
We have to keep highlighting what's going on. You can't just forget about it.
So today's show, we have a very special guest that we met through some of our contacts at the rally we were at on April 30th in DC. He is also helping plan a massive rally on D-Day, something that I've been talking about and wanting to be a part of if possible. So the big thing for me is getting there. I'm pretty sure Mike's not going to be able to go to this one, but I would be able to go if
When
possible.
is it?
June 6th.
Oh boy, that's like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, we got 3 weeks, so we'll see what happens. If I can raise the funds to go, I will definitely be there to live stream everything. Yeah, you never know what happens. We'll see what happens. Again, we appreciate all your guys' support throughout the episode. If you guys would share the live, make sure you interact with it as much as possible, just so we can help break through the algorithm, or help us break through the algorithm, because that seems to be our biggest opposition at this point. Also, if you are willing to donate to the cause, to donate to the show, to help Mike and I, continue to go to different, because I think I've live streamed 6 protests this year so far. And we would like to continue that trend. My big goal is I want to go to a huge one where there's just a mass, like thousands of people, just to be able to show you guys. Dr. Who fan, thank you so much. So yeah, we'll see what happens. The link tree is in the description of this video. It's also on our channel page, depending on what platform you are watching on, and our GoFundMe is in the link tree. Any help is greatly appreciated, but if not, at least just like, subscribe, and share the video. A few clicks of the thumb is all we ask. So, all right, enough of me ranting about that. Let's get into the matter at hand. Today we have the founder of American Opposition, someone who decided that he was also going to take a stand against fascism in America, and first-time guest on the show. Welcome to the show, Carlos Alvarez. And I'm going to butcher your last name. Is it Aranyos?
Aranyos. Carlos Alvarez-Aranyos.
Hey, I do my best when I can. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you here. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be on our humble little podcast.
Thank you for having me, guys. Really excited to be here.
So how did you decide to get into all this? Actually, I forgot to play the video of you. I may as well do that. I totally forgot my plan, because I had to restart my computer right before the show, and it threw off my whole thought process. Hold your thoughts. Let me go ahead and play this video real quick. And it's okay. We'll get there. And then we'll go from there.
the people that are trying to buy us, including your owner, Rupert Murdoch, that piece of shit. Why don't you show up for us and start telling our stories? Because trust me, Rupert Murdoch may scare you, but we are way scarier than Rupert Murdoch.
My name is Carlos Alvarez-Aranyos. I'm the founder of American Opposition. In 2020, I helped oversee strategic communications for Protect Democracy in the fight to protect the election during the pandemic and under Trump. We were able to be successful in having a good election in 2020. And then last year, I co-founded the American Sunlight Project with Nina Jankowicz to protect the election against disinformation. And then in late January, after the inauguration, I got angry at the Democrats for being terrible at strategic communications, which is my job. And I decided that I was going to launch my own organization to do the work that they weren't doing and serve as a hub, a strategic hub, to provide directionality and unity to a movement.
Was that American Opposition?
And that is American Opposition. And
when was the genesis of that?
January 22nd, I think, was the first day that I decided that I might do it. I think I officially registered it on the 27th. And we made a call for a national day of protest on February 5th. That a bunch of people showed up at, and that really made it blossom. And then on President's Day, we made a call that then 5051 joined for another national day of protest. And that was really the genesis of what I see as the modern movement.
There we go.
You know, that's funny, Jeremy. Like seeing that video for the first time just now. It told you how to say his name. We could have just waited.
I know.
But also, I think it's funny how that dovetails perfectly into something that's been pissing you off for a few days, if not longer. And we've talked about it is, boy, the Democrats still have not figured out messaging. And now what we're seeing with them trying to take back, no backsies. They're trying to pretend that they didn't put in some form of leadership, younger progressives that realized, hey, we don't need the centrist, complicit Democrats bending the knee to try and get a seat at a table they'll never be allowed at. We need to seize this party and move it towards the left in a way that the voters in the last election told you that they wanted us to. Okay, you have Democrats now in leadership saying we need to tone down the woke. We need to tone down the protection of trans. We need to tone down all of it. No, we need to amplify that. And I think, Carlos, you seem to have built an entire organization around the concept of Democrats don't know how to message or refuse to.
Yeah, I mean, but to be honest, the ideological problem is a second order problem. I actually think the party works better as a big tent. And you're right. I think progressives haven't gotten enough of a seat at the table, but that's partly progressives' fault. I think there's within the sort of substructure. I think progressives have been. I'll give you an example on the Gaza protests. Right, you're seeing a lot of activism around Gaza that has pretzeled itself, and it's hard for people to. They've alienated people by their process, not by their goals. Like even people who agree with them, because they lack a clear strategic vision of where they want to go, or they tend to criticize Democrats more than Republicans, that kind of thing. So it turns out it ends up being a situation where sometimes you mean well, but you just don't know how to get there. And for the Democratic Party on messaging, before we get into sort of the progressive versus centrist argument, which I think is a valid one, but it's not really fundamentally interesting to me because Trump is Trump and I'm dealing with Trump. And then, the Democrats, I need them to be better.
Put the small stuff aside.
Right. I need to put the small stuff aside. But I will say on the macro, like the reason I launched this organization is because I assumed that during the transition, the Democrats would brand an opposition movement. And what I mean by that is, remember the contract with America that Newt Gingrich had?
Wow.
Okay.
I forgot about that.
You give it a name. You set out 5 to 10 goals, things you want to do. You set out a vision for where you want to end up. Right. And then everything you do feeds that vision. And whether it's coming from progressives or centrists or whatever, everybody can latch onto the same thing. The problem you have beyond the ideological disparities with AOC doing good things sometimes, or Jasmine Crockett doing good things sometimes, or Bernie Sanders doing good things sometimes, is that individual efforts are great, but they don't aggregate unless they're feeding a unified strategy. Right. And so what we're trying to do at American Opposition is to declare a unified strategy for the movement. If the Democrats had done it, we wouldn't exist, nor would we want to be honest. Like I don't want to be doing this.
I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
I don't want to be doing this. Elon Musk tweeted that I'm evil. I get, 50 to 75 death threats a day. I'm a guy that has been behind the scenes his entire career and quite happy to be there. I really love riding my motorcycles. I don't want to be famous. I've been engaged to a famous person. I know what fame is. I don't want it to be part of my life. So it's interesting to have been required in this moment because the Democrats have failed to understand some very basic shit on strategic comms. You need to unify around a shared vision. You need to feed that vision. Everything you do has to push that strategy forward. Literally everything. And then
it's funny. It's funny you say that because we're not geniuses, but it's easy to see that the Republicans for the last 30, 40 years, let's just say since they decided to put Reagan in office, let's go with, their united vision has been a white Christian America. It's not that complicated. They told you all the time what their vision was. And in the same amount of time, the Democrats' vision was, well, you say the term big tent, and I totally agree with it, but that's not a party platform. That's that's just like your invite list. Okay. But to your point, they never seem to have a cohesive plan to do anything. Their answer is always, well, the Republicans are doing this against you. We're doing this for you. Okay. Well, how do you fix that? And how do you get there? Oh, well, just vote for us.
I think there are creators. We might as well bring this up because I'd like to actually get a little bit of your history and talk a little bit about how you got to this point. What made you decide to, start all this, like the Trump Administrative Action Database and all that, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But I'm not calling anybody out individually, but as a movement on the left, seems to be a small faction that want to debate and try and convert MAGAs over to our side. And I'm just looking at them like, why are you wasting an ounce of your breath on MAGAs? If they realize they made a mistake and they want to come out and protest, because I've actually talked to Trump supporters at protests and that are protesting now against Donald Trump. But for some reason, they keep getting sucked into trying to debate. And I just feel like it's a completely futile effort. But if you want to convert, great. Come out to the protests. You're more than welcome to, but I'm not going to actively waste my time going after people that voted for Donald Trump, especially people that voted for Trump 3 times and are now like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
You know what's interesting? That goes to the point is, should that be part of the Democrats' message, converting, or is it informing, or is it a plea? What's your opinion on that? Like, should the Democratic Party itself waste time trying to lure stubborn MAGA? Because at this point, if you're breaking away from MAGA, great, come watch our stuff. We'll do our best to educate you, but we're not going to fawn over you, and we're certainly not going to try and at this point get more of you to come over. If you want to do that, that's your effort. We have more things to fight than to convert people who in 2025, May 18th are still supporting Donald Trump. So what do we do? What is the Democratic Party? What should they focus on?
Well, I mean, I kind of disagree. I don't disagree with you. It's just not your job.
Can.
Meaning,
please do.
No, but I think the Democrats can't call people morons and then ask them to vote for them.
Okay.
That's not a winning strategy. But the Democratic role, meaning the party's role, is different than our role.
Okay.
So I think that we don't have to try to convince MAGA to come over, but the Democrats, by nature of their job, literally what it is that they exist to do is to get votes.
Sure.
And so they have to provide pathways for people to onboard as Democrats if that's a choice they make. That said, it starts with there's an alienation happening here in the eyes of the Trump supporter. And again, I want to be very clear. None of what I'm about to say is about our values or how we see the world. It's about what we say and what we say is one thing. What they hear is a different thing.
Okay.
And it's important in communications. It's a baseline concept in communications that you kind of have to pick your side when you're talking based on your strategy. Do you want to make your supporters feel good, or do you want to perform well at the ballot box? 2 different strategies that require 2 different audiences, 2 different types of communication segmentation, different types of language, right? So Democrats need to do both. So they're not mutually exclusive, but you need to be able to say, if you voted for Trump and now you realize what you did, here's a path back to the light, right? That has to exist. And it's not mostly because Donald Trump got more votes and Democrats need to change that condition. But more importantly, because the midterm elections are not a zero-sum game of, we just want a majority and we win. You need super majorities in both houses.
Yep.
True.
So
True.
right now, as it stands, if we had an election today, we would not get close to a super majority in either house. So we need to change that condition from here to there.
No.
And so my point is that the party has to do the job of getting more voters. I think that starts with in terms of MAGA and what they hear. You can't call people an idiot. You can't tell them that the values that their grandfather or their father taught them are wrong. What you have to do is you have to lead people to evolve, not tell them to evolve. And there's a subtle difference in the tonality and the language you use, but you have to open your door and say, look, man, what do we agree on? We're American. What does that mean? We have traditions here. What do those mean? We have a community here. What does that mean? That's part of the conversation. Now, in terms of progressive arguments, which is more to your point, Mike, we need to do a better job of explaining why progressive arguments are better. And that is connected, but it's actually kind of, again, a segmentation problem. Progressives come across to not just to MAGA supporters, but to centrist Democrats as snobs.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
That has to stop. The argument that everybody should have universal health care in a country as wealthy as ours should not be a snobby argument. It shouldn't sound snobby.
Thank you.
That should be a centrist argument. That is a centrist argument.
No,
thank you so much for saying that.
Fair enough, but my point is, it's a centrist argument in the context of the world.
It should be.
Right.
Yes.
In America, it's a left argument. In the world,
of course.
It's a centrist argument, right?
Of course.
But my point is, it should never sound snobby. The idea that people should be able to go to community college for free so that they have access to so that we have access to a better workforce is weirdly a conservative argument, right? And yet it sounds not just leftist, it sounds leftist and snobby when it's made by Democrats. So part of it is, it's not what we say, it's how we say it. It's not what we say, it's what they hear. These are the foundational things in play. We're not really debating progressivism versus conservatism. That is not what's at play here. We are just fucking up how we talk about what we want and why we want it.
It's really, we need to reevaluate how we frame our entire argument, because we all know
fucking thing.
We all know that, you look at what the Republicans did. The Republicans are the ones that created the words pro-life. That's not a real, that doesn't define the argument for it.
And let me go back to your point about Reagan, right? And using abortion.
Yep.
The Southern Baptists, who are the most conservative Christians in America.
Yep.
In the early 70s, the Southern Baptist Convention voted 4 times to confirm a woman's right to choose. And then a political consultant somewhere came up with abortion as a potential wedge issue and ran with it. As a political consultant, as a guy who does this shit, I'm telling you, that was very successful. But the reason it was successful was not because that was such a brilliant thought. It was because the Democrats at the time failed to mount a resistance to it and to reframe it and to remind people that it's not a religious argument. Because, by the way, in the Bible, it says that if you kill a pregnant woman, you get the death penalty. But if only the fetus dies, you pay a 50 shekel fine.
Yep.
Right? So the reality is that we have just failed since Nixon, and it goes before Reagan.
Yep, absolutely.
You know what happened is that the Republican Party took on, there's archetypal genders, the archetypal masculine, archetypal feminine, right? We're not talking about real genders.
No.
The representations of gender, right? Archetypally. The Republicans assume the archetypal male role. They're direct, they're simple, they don't care too much about facts, they'll repeat shit. They will be absolutely certain. They'll bully, they'll be certain, but they make you feel secure because they say it with confidence, even if they don't know what the fuck they're talking
about. The arrogance is confidence, but people take that as fact.
In America, people love arrogance and they love narcissism. Don't let them tell you otherwise. Yeah. That's why Donald Trump is president. They really dig the cocksure guy. That's an American archetype. That is the Marlboro Man, by the way. That's who. That's who we are.
Donald Reagan.
Right. Literally, it's Reagan.
Reagan got elected.
Right. Exactly.
Versus Carter in the movies.
Versus Carter, who had everything on him.
Yeah, he was a legitimate. He was a legitimate cowboy. Had a peanut farm.
Literally. And so the Democrats assume the archetypal female, which is nuanced, complex, way more capable, way smarter, way more intellectual, way more empathetic, way more inclusive, etc. But it requires more time. Guess what? We live in a country where the average person reads at a 7th grade level. Yep. So we're not going to, nuance is not going to work here.
No,
and so part of my argument to Democrats is you have to reverse your archetypal gender, start talking to people. By the way, I did an analysis personally in 2020 of all of the Democratic messaging, all of it. And none of it was reading at lower than an 11th grade level. So literally nothing the Democrats said in 2020 connected with their intended audiences. And so my point to you is we're not having a policy conversation. Progressivism isn't failing on the merits. It's failing because when you say to somebody the word inclusive, you assume that they know what that means.
Oh my God, it's all literally just framing and language.
It's kind of what we do here. We try to break things down into the simplest possible terms. Now, hey, Carlos, let me run a theory by you, because everybody seems to be very hyper-focused on trying to get as many MAGAs to come over to our side, or people that maybe voted for Trump and now really do feel like first-time voters that got sucked into this by like Joe Rogan and all that shit. But I feel like we should be focusing our efforts on the people in this country that did not vote, because this is no longer about politics. We have actual Nazis, actual Nazis trying to implement actual Nazi shit in this country.
But isn't that messaging too?
And that is going to severely affect, if not cost people everything, to include their lives. So to me, like I tell my friends now, like, look, y'all need to pay the fuck. Pay the fuck. Why am I trying to apologize for curses? My show. We pay the fuck attention. I'm like, I'm sorry, my language. What are we doing here? All right, so you know what I mean. You need to pay attention. Like I have friends that
you're not going to get them to pay attention.
It's hard. But I tell what I do.
Well, but here's the thing, and I'm just being real with you. Yes, you're not going to get them to pay attention. And trying to reinvent the wheel and hope that the reinvention of the wheel is the thing that saves you is not going to get us anywhere. Well, Barack Obama was able to create a movement. It is possible for Democrats to do that. John F. Kennedy did it. The things those guys have in common: you have to be young, you have to be super charismatic, you have to come with a message. By the way, Bill Clinton did it perfectly for his time. He came in and he sounded like a guy you wanted to have a beer with, but he also had really good ideas, and he could be smarter than you without making you feel less than. And it requires a certain skill set, right? But Democrats can make an affirmative argument. They just haven't done it in a long time. So, but that said, Nazism, the problem with what you just said, that we have not real Nazis, is that let's say somebody hasn't paid any political attention. And Mike, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Just being real with you. Let's say you took somebody who has no fucking idea what's going on politically in this country. And let's just say that you told them verbatim the truth about what Donald Trump has done. What would you assume their immediate answer would be?
I'm crazy.
They would literally say, there's no fucking way what you're saying is true. Because if it was, he wouldn't be president anymore. Or because if it was, the other guys would have won or whatever. The point is that Donald Trump is so bad that he goes beyond the believability spectrum. And so it's really hard to explain to disconnected voters of what he's doing, because they will not believe you.
I show them clips.
But honestly, guys, I'm just being real with you. So the only way to win is to make affirmative arguments, meaning I'm not going to win by attacking Donald Trump, even though I want to, because people will never believe me. And the ones, by the way, who would believe me are already convinced because they know enough to know what he's done. And especially if he's impacted them. The only fucking way to win elections in America is to fucking set out a vision for the world in a voice that is understood and resonates with regular people, and say to them, here's what I'm going to give you.
So
that's what we haven't done. We've been fucking complaining about Trump the whole time. And by the way, every time we complain about Trump, we give him attention.
Yeah,
and we exist in an attention economy. And so he fucking wins every time because he gets more attention. The Democrats have to produce a fucking TV show. A Kim Kardashian country elects Donald Trump. It's a fucking reality show world. So the Democrats need to produce a reality show. And it's got to be more interesting than Donald Trump.
So I guess it's not surprising that they're looking to make a new reality show where immigrants fight for citizenship.
100%. That is exactly what they do. Yeah.
But that's what they do is because they're giving spectacle to people who have come to not only expect it, but they need it. They crave spectacle. So I guess then my next question is, if there's a two-front war in my mind. We have to get the Democrats to message differently at their game. But I think we also have to get then, let's call it the grassroots side, to message their game differently as well. And what I mean is, if the Democrats can't go nationally and say, MAGA, you're stupid, but please vote for us, then we can't do that either. And it's very easy for us to fall into, let's just make fun of them. Let's just show Trump being Trump. But then this is a genuine plea from myself to you. What do we do to help from our perspective? We're not at the political get votes level. We're trying to be at the spread information level. So how do we do that when in reality it's sensationalism versus basic civics? How do you make basic civics sexy enough for people?
Right. You don't make it civics. What you do is you give them an experience. You produce a show. And by the way, starting on January 26th, American Opposition, in connection with 5051, in connection with Indivisible, primarily those two at the national level, and then a bunch of other groups, 14 Now, Refuse Fascism, etc., have produced a show. My speeches are part of that show. The speeches that you see everybody else give are part of that show. And what are we doing? We're trying to attract people by making clear that we are them. I mean, dude, I started as a taxi driver. I built a transportation company. I've had people poop in my cab. I've had to deal with literal shit. You know what I'm saying?
Walls, shit in a cab.
And by the way, I'm a duality, because I'm also really not a man of the people. I was like best friends with Elizabeth Taylor for a period of time. So like I've had this weird life, but at least I know enough of the world and I've lived enough to like explain to people, hey man, I don't want to be here. I really don't. But I've done this before, and life put me in this situation to do it again somehow. Out of the 330 million people in this country, in 2020, Time magazine called our collective effort the secret bipartisan campaign that saved the 2020 election. Nice. Genuinely, guys, I did 49 national campaigns, all of which you saw in the news. I helped produce the second impeachment trial. I got Emily Murphy to certify the election. All the shit you saw in the news, a lot of it I was involved with in 2020.
Wow.
It was like the zenith of my career. I was like, I'm done, man. I have done it. Yep. 49 national campaigns. They all landed.
Mic. That's it.
Right. 18 op-eds in the New York Times and Washington Post in a year. I don't think that's ever been done.
Yeah.
Fucking drop the mic. I'm done. And then life, dude, I launched a thing on January 26th or whatever the official day was. And a bunch of people show up. And the serendipity of the fact that I didn't have a learning curve, that my family, by the way, is not in this country. They live abroad because I'm an immigrant, even though I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm not married. I don't have kids, so I don't have those fears. I've worked in 6 conflict areas. I've been shot at by tanks and people, so I know what it feels like to be in real danger. And I grew up under fascism in the Dominican Republic, under elected fascism, under what Donald Trump wants to be.
Wow.
So, like, to have me, you know, when you feel like everything's coming together for you to be, I was watching Andor, you know, that Star Wars show, and they were talking about how like the main guy was a messenger because he had been gathering all of the right skill sets for that moment. Mm-hmm. That's what it feels like to be me in this moment. And all I can tell you is like, not just me, but Leia and Ezra at Indivisible. The best people in this country for this moment have organically gathered together and are delivering an experience that is modeling exactly what you want to see with this party, Mike. Think about it. Everybody who shows up at our protest, they don't agree with each other on everything.
Don't have to.
In some cases, they wildly disagree. We have everybody from the Democratic Socialists to the most centrist yuppies in America
and
all
that's
showing
okay.
up. Right. And we're modeling acceptance. And then when we speak, people aren't saying, I disagree with 90% of what you said, but I agree with, this. They're saying, you know what? Your vibe is right. You sound like my internal monologue. And to be honest, man, we have to be able to give each other grace and to disagree. And part of that just comes, it's a vibe check. It's like, if I like you, I don't have to agree with you as much as if I don't like you. And part of the fucking problem with Democrats is like, Cory Booker gave a 25-hour speech and then voted with Trump twice.
I don't understand that, and no one's talking about that.
And and what that does to Cory Booker that he doesn't fucking realize is that he makes us hate him.
He took something that could have been used for good and went, yeah, but I'm still going to confirm.
Exactly. I'm still going to confirm. Dude, Chuck Schumer hated. Hakeem Jeffries hated. Nancy Pelosi hated. The Democrats are less popular than Trump.
Yep.
And my point is, I don't have an agenda. Yeah, within literally, they make me angrier than the Republicans because the Republicans I understand. But my point to you is like, I come at this with no agenda. I'm smart enough to be here. I know what I'm doing. I know where I want to get to. We're gonna win this fight. Americans, please hear me on this. We're gonna fucking win this. We're gonna lose a lot of battles, but we're gonna win the war. But all I can tell you is, you have to be, in a sense, more like me or Leah or Ezra or any of the leaders in this movement. You just have to be real, be fucking human. Say, I don't know when you don't know. To be able to fucking, if I disagree with you guys on something, which we're not going to agree on everything, I still don't want you coming out of a conversation with me going, I fucking, that guy, because we disagree, I don't like him. The likability, Bill Clinton, nobody agreed with a lot of the stuff he was saying.
Yeah, but everyone loves Slick Willie.
They fucking like him,
Slick Willie.
Yeah.
I think there's a. Oh, I'm sorry. I just the word one word you used when you said like we need to do a vibe check is the word you use the word acceptance. And I've actually said this before. I think because people have over time, like we said, well, you need tolerance. Like tolerating stuff is not good. Like tolerating stuff is toxic. It means you pretend.
It means you pretend. It's literally the synonym there is bearing. And we don't want to bear shit. We want to fucking experience life. We want to find joy. And by the way, the thing that makes humans human are their flaws.
Yep.
And by the way, Donald Trump, Democrats think that Donald Trump's flaws hurt him. Let me blow your fucking mind. His flaws and his embrace of his flaws and the fact that he's a narcissist and he leans into it. His supporters fucking love that.
It endears him to them.
Because he's it is. But the people who love him, they feel empowered by him because if they're ignorant and they lean in, they think that's a positive. And so him modeling that behavior makes them feel better about themselves. And ultimately, guys, 90% of life and 90% of politics is about insecurity and security, about that transaction.
This psycho narcissist posted an AI video of himself
playing the piano.
Don't stop believing.
But you know what's funny? This is what I think. This is how your point is coming across in my mind on that point. People, his supporters, look at him. That's clearly to us, the three of us, and I'll say the normies watching that. That's a guy who's so insecure about his own success, his own memory, his own abilities, that he's like, haha, I get to see myself if I was that talented. Well, to your point, that's what MAGA's doing in him. We suck too, to some extent, or we have these flaws. We're like this. He's like us. We could be that. We love him for it.
He is like us. You just said the key line. He is like us is a moment that you can't recreate, right?
Yep.
And forget for a second whether it's true or not. Forget what his intentions are. The moment a voter says about a politician, he is like me.
That's you. That's it.
That's a deadlock. That's a vote. And Donald Trump has done that with a, call it 33% of the population or whatever.
It's funny you say that.
That is fucking real. That is fucking real.
I see that in my life. So on Tuesday are school board elections, local elections. And there's a woman running to be reelected for a local school board who at one of the board meetings that I went to ripped off her shirt, and underneath it had another shirt that had an anti-union thing on it. So really she's standing there as the elected board president pretending she's a WWE wrestler. Now, I'm going to give you a little history of Long Island. We are Ginzaloon Central, okay? So this woman represents everyone's ridiculous aunt they've ever seen, is a raging Italian lady. And all the MAGAs here, because Long Island is somehow MAGA Central. Like, we're like when the U.S. and the Confederacy split and there was a new capital in the Confederacy.
To be fair, it's not that difficult to explain. Look at Long Island.
Yeah.
Like, look at it. Look at your average citizen.
Oh,
and that's the closest American to Trump organically.
Yep. Yes. And it's funny because so many people who grew up knowing that Donald Trump was a piece of garbage forgot that when it was so distanced from him being this tycoon in New York, and his national image became that of the game show guy. And everyone in New York that heard their parents going, man, Donald Trump didn't pay us today, Donald Trump didn't do this today, they forgot it because he was acting like they were acting, and they just identify with him.
And by the way, I'm going to take it one layer deeper, guys. The guy that doesn't pay is a Native American dude. I don't want to say Native American together because that's not what I mean. What I mean is an archetype, an American archetype.
A born American.
Yeah, it's the guy that doesn't pay. We all know him.
Yeah, you're right.
And so Donald Trump is feeding some of the core American archetypes.
Wow, we laugh when someone says, I bumped out on the check. He's the guy that always bumps out, and everyone loves him for it.
I mean, and the Brits say that about people who own Jaguars. Like, it's literally, you know what I'm saying? Like, but my point is that doesn't exclude you because you're normal. It means you're like them, like somebody that we know, like your crazy aunt, or if you resemble something I understand, if you speak a language that I understand, and by the way, Queens is part of the island. And so in a sense, he is part of that world and he represents it and he owns it very well, by the way. This dude, he acts
like a New Yorker.
But he acts like a New York sub-archetype, which also fits in like Western Massachusetts.
Yes.
It fits in New Hampshire, it fits in Maine.
It's and the dick-swinging suit wearer.
Who doesn't really, and even when he wears the suit, you can imagine him as the union boss locally, as the guy that
exactly it does.
And so again, we are dealing in tropes, guys, and these are very simple ones. These archetypes are native to our country, to our experience, to our culture, which means we're not gonna exclude somebody for not paying their bills. Remember when he said, "I'm smart, I don't pay my taxes." That's a fucking thing that like 90% of America went, that dude is right.
Yeah.
And our disconnect is in just not even fucking seeing that everything he's doing is endearing him to people, including that ridiculous video, by the way. It just makes him so ridiculous that people just laugh. And when you laugh, you've made a connection.
So
it's
here's
so
my real question then is, if we have to, let me try and talk through this. So what you're kind of saying, in my own dumb way of envisioning it, is that we have to find a better way to talk, not to explain our ideas to people, but a better way to talk to them so that they're willing to hear our ideas. And to do that, we have to let them know. Is that not
no?
See, I'm trying to understand how
they
we
already agree with our ideas. Let's be real for a second. If you lay out individual ideas, the Democratic platform, most Americans agree with most Democratic ideas, period.
Okay.
You've already convinced them. They just have to fucking like you.
Is it really is it because America is a popularity contest?
It's an attention economy. Think about it this way.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a country. I watched yesterday my uncle was Oscar de la Renta, the fashion designer.
Oh.
And because of that, on my streams, I get some fashion shit sometimes.
Okay.
And something came up with one of the Kardashians. And I can't name the Kardashians, but it was one of them. And she spoke for 5 seconds on my phone. And it disturbed my brain so much that I wanted to throw my phone away, right?
You had a visceral reaction to her voice.
Immediate visceral, like, fuck this shit, I'm out. Right? But here's what that moment was important to me. Because Americans, they are the most popular family in America. Them and the dudes, what are their names? The guys, the boxer and the brother and the
those dipshits. Yeah, I can't stand them.
The
Paul
Pauls,
brothers,
right? Yeah, the Pauls.
The whole package.
Here's my point, guys. I can't watch 5 seconds of either of those guys because I think, man, this is the meaning to this country.
Dude,
it's the meaning to us. It's the meaning to our way of life. Those are the two most popular people, and people not only listen, they want to hear that shit. So if you want to understand the delta between where you are and where Trump voters are, or just about most Americans, by the way, especially young people, imagine not only wanting to listen to them, but being entertained by them. And that is the fucking distance we have to navigate right now between what they consider our snobbery, which for us, by the way, is just being fucking
just basic logic.
Yeah.
Like, I hate the Kardashians because they are annoying as shit and they have no talent whatsoever, and everything is fake. That versus, I love the Kardashians. They are my heroes. Everything they do is awesome. That is the divide, bro. And so my point to you, what did Clinton do well? What did Kennedy do well? What did Obama do well? They were liked. And then they agree with you already. It's not about policy. No. These are not policy arguments. People are not disagreeing with you that we should all have health care. They're just fucking angry because their parents lost their job 30 years ago and they remember what that felt like, and it was a union that was supposed to protect them that didn't, so now they don't believe in unions anymore. They spent 30 years broke off their ass like we all have at some point for an extended period, and we're just going, everybody's out to fuck me because apparently I'm I am the unified vision of what the resistance looks like if you're them. And that my pride is wrapped up in getting back at the man rather than pulling myself up. By the way, none of that is unjustified, meaning in their eyes, from their perspective, that's what's happened. The reality is they were benefiting from systemic racism. They were benefiting from a bunch of shit, and they don't want to give it up. It's a fucking patronage system. And by the way, in a capitalist system, everybody's out to get as much as they can from the fucking government. And that creates a toxicity on its own as well. Because by the way, I've lived that. I've seen it where you do have like 0.1% of the population abusing the system, but they use that as a justification because they know those people. They meet them every day. And so it's a fucked up thing, but it actually kind of makes sense when you really think about it.
You know, we made fun of it, but looking back on it, it was actually probably a very smart move for Trump to go on all these podcast bros like
of course it was.
Not just Joe Rogan, but what's that other dipshit's name?
Yeah, whatever. All those little Nazis. But
you know what I mean? But
that's where all the bros are watching, and
right.
That's where all
and when you say messaging, though, that was on point because that is the preferred source of media these days. And Kamala Harris turned down the interview with Joe Rogan. You know what I mean? Just turned it down because he wouldn't go to her.
And that's the thing is you can't be better than anybody or worse than anybody. In some ways, liberals just have to live their values and be like, look, man, my name is Carlos. I was born in the Dominican Republic. I came to this country. I went to college here. I went to graduate school here. I got to work big jobs, and then I lost everything during the financial crisis. I ended up driving a cab. I drove a cab for a year and became the most successful taxi driver in my state. Then I took 7,000 of that and built and bought a black car and started a company. And I drove 400,000 miles in 3 years to stand up a business. God. That's a lifetime of driving. I did it in 3 years.
You know how many people would understand that struggle? And I think that's your point.
Right.
Get people to see that.
Dude, I struggle every day to this day. This movement, twice I fought Donald Trump, and I feel very successful because my work has captured the public imagination. Yet most of the time, I'm still struggling to figure out how to pay my bills, how to do this while not, I had to leave my full-time job to do this full-time. but I don't make money from this. So how do I deal with that shit? Like, if I'm on social media and I'm a Democratic politician and I'm struggling and explaining my struggles every day and saying, this is what I'm going through, and this is why I want to make it better. I want to make sure people have health insurance because, dude, right now I pay $412 a month for my insurance policy, and I'm a healthy dude, and I've never had a serious disease, which means people who are not healthy are paying way more. And fuck that. And we need to make that better because it would help me. Like, that's a narrative that people can connect with. The reason AOC works is because she was a fucking bartender and she comes from that place.
Yep.
And honestly, guys, it's not what you say. It's just about being fucking connected to people. And Kamala Harris, for all of her talents, she is a generational talent. But she couldn't. People don't understand who she was. They couldn't connect with her. Well, and partly it was because she only had 104 days. That's not fair.
Yes, right. And it's interesting because you talk about they have to connect. Trump made a good The move to put Trump on Rogan was a good idea. And the move for Harris to not go on Rogan was obviously a misstep. But the irony is that they were pushing, especially during the DNC, the embracing of all the social media accounts, the influencers, people like Midas Touch, people like all the other guys out there, Adam Mockler, all of them. So they were trying, and this is where I think I'm starting to understand your point. Yeah, Joe Rogan's a douche nozzle, but he has a audience that whether or not they agree with who and what he is 100%, that you have their ear if you go on their show, and all you got to do is relate to them. And maybe you relate to a few, maybe you don't, but you might.
No,
so
by the way,
what are you doing?
Joe Rogan, I will say, I sadly professionally have to be acquainted with Joe Rogan, and I am. And Joe Rogan, if you make a reasonable point on his show, he doesn't hesitate to agree with it.
Fair enough.
Right? And the second thing, and I'm not defending him, but it's general, that dude is willing to listen. That's his job, and he's good at his job. That's why he's successful. Like, let's be real. That said, here's the problem. On the left, you had guys, they literally created a new type of influencer. There's a guy named Keith Edwards or something like that. There's a guy named Harry Sisson, who's Gen Zer. There's a guy named Johnny Palmadessa or Paldamessa, I don't know.
Yeah, I know
there was that Lindy Lee, that woman that famously betrayed the Democrats. Dude, let me tell you something. These people have never done shit in politics, and they're treated like experts because they have 50,000 followers on whatever platform. and then what it creates is a circle jerk. Everybody's talking.
Thank you.
You built their own echo chamber.
Thank you so much.
And it's such an echo chamber that all they have to do is please each other. And I'll give you a worse example of that. In this current movement, the fucking nonprofit, there's a bunch of nonprofits in this country that literally call themselves like Save Democracy, right?
Yep.
I don't want to name names, but they're all similarly named.
We know what they are.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, these are all think tanks, meaning nerds who get paid $200,000 a year to write about protecting democracy. That's, to them, their job.
Yep.
They thought it was a thought exercise. And the reason I know this is because I used to work for one of them. And we did amazing work in 2020. But in 2025, when the action is no longer theoretical, when we have to get, or legal or lobbying, but we have to get out on the fucking streets and convince people.
They don't know what to do.
Where did they go? They literally are still having, I'll put it this way. They had something called the American Democracy Summit in Arizona this week. A summit on saving American democracy that did not include American opposition, 50-51, or indivisible. And I'm sitting here. Literally, they had a fucking summit. They flew there to talk how to save democracy. And none of those three groups were represented. Nobody I met on the street was there. All of them, all the people that I haven't met on the street were there. Nobody who's talking to us. Are they sharing resources with us? Are they in communication with us? Are they trying anything? No, they're having strategy sessions because that's how they justify their fucking paychecks. And my point to you is, nobody is showing up because they're either cowards or they don't know how to contribute. And those are people who signed up to show up. So my point to you guys is, we also have to account for the people who are full of shit.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
There are so many people who are just epically full of shit. This fight is going to kill me probably or put me in prison.
Yeah, I've said that.
And I am fine with that. But
I say accept
I
that.
will happily die for the beliefs I have around democracy and freedom. I grew up under an elected fascist. I don't ever want to go back to that again, and that feeling is creeping up in the back of my spine. So all I will say is this: we need fucking real people who have real commitment to real values to stand the fuck up, join us, join this effort. We need to replace every Chuck Schumer and every Hakeem Jeffries in the next midterm election, and we need to replace every fucking Republican, period. Yeah, and we need to just fucking, as a population, we need to say, we're going to choose to be better than Kim Kardashian because a Kim Kardashian country elects Donald Trump, and we're going to model a better thing, but we're going to do it without being hated like Joe Biden became, which, by the way, Barack Obama, if you ask him what sucked in his administration, he'll tell you it was communications. And yet, Biden hired the same people and Harris hired the same people. Right. You're doing the same shit and expecting a different result. And my point is,
just so afraid to move forward.
They're afraid to exist outside of a patronage system because that's all they've ever understood. They literally can only swim in one fucking pond. And my point to you guys is, I don't care what your beliefs are. If you're the real deal, if you're a human being who gives a shit, I want to know you. Dude. If you're a human being who's apathetic or wants to be taken care of, fuck you. Like, that is the dividing line, and it's not a partisan dividing line. I give a shit about this country, and I'm willing to die for it. And if people are willing to fucking stand by me, we will get to the to a better
fucking go, man. I'm ready to go right now. All right, hey, well, real quick, Mike, I just want to add what you said because of how you grew up under a fascist dictatorship. My mom was orphaned in 1943 as a result of the Nazis. Was adopted by a woman who could not have kids because she was forced sterilized by the Nazis. My dad fought in 2 wars, served a distinguished career for 22 years in the United States Army. You know what I mean? I was born into this, and I'm not gonna let my mom be born into fascism and Nazism and also die in it. I cannot let that happen.
Dude, the most powerful thing that's happened to me since I started this, and I've given speeches. You talk about tens of thousands of people. I've gotten to give speeches to tens of thousands of people, and one of those speeches was to veterans on March 14th at the National Mall. And after the speech, I came down, and there was a massive crowd, 20, 30,000 Americans, veterans. And one of the women that was there was this very frail Holocaust survivor who walked up to me after and said thank you to me. And I was sitting there going, that's a ridiculous thank you. Come on. What are you even talking about? Yeah. It's the same thing I feel with veterans. Is like, you never have to thank me.
There's a reverence that you don't feel you deserve.
Well, number one. But number two, when this is all over, I don't want to be known. Like, there is no thanks anybody owes me, man. Yeah. I'm just a guy standing up for his country because that's what the moment requires.
You're not doing this for the recognition.
I don't give it dude, it's the opposite. I want to go. I love riding motorcycles, and I just want to go to the track or to the fucking Arctic on my bike and just be lost. Yeah. My point is, we don't need to take credit. We don't need thanks. But what we really do need is human connection. Is people jumping in and saying, you know what, we're in it with you. Yes. You know, there was a woman that said the N-word and because she raised $700,000.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Let me tell you something. American opposition in total has raised less than $30,000 since we started. So and my goal is we need 3 million to do our billboard campaign, to do our app, to do. But the fact that a racist woman can outraise us by 200 and something %.
Yeah.
Or no, wait. More, 1,000%. I don't know the math. But the point is,
math is hard.
She can it is. But my point is that the fact that she's been able to outraise
and that was
us
in days, like hours. That was like within like 48 hours. She over 250,000
on a Christian-based fucking platform of all things, man.
And so my point to you guys is, what we need to answer your concerns, Mike, about messaging, to answer your concern about Jeremy, about, bringing people in. What we need is to be fucking real. To stop being so fucking precious, to stop being so fucking, perfect all the time and demanding perfection. And by the way, somebody said the word woke. Mike, you said it at some point in the problem with the word woke is that it labels something.
Yep.
And what it's labeling is not the ideas, it's the snobbery.
Yes. Okay.
God, dude.
You know what I'm saying?
I've talked about this
the
before.
word woke is
That's
just
crazy.
a synonym for fucking snob.
So we have to recognize how they see us, not necessarily our message, but if they see us a certain way, our message will sound different in a lot of ways.
Bill Clinton, bro. That is literally Bill Clinton.
Everyone needs a tenor saxophone. I need a Bill Clinton saxophone.
I know, right? yeah, no kidding.
Well, oh, Jeremy, did you have something? Because I wanted to transition
go ahead,
to
please.
something real quick, because we spoke just briefly before we went on air, and it's something that I always bring up because I'm embarrassed about how I used to feel. But given the fact that we are constantly making friends with veterans, the fact that I am so proud that we see our show as not friendly to veterans, but veterans have become something integral to us, because everything we seem to be participating in, veterans are there. Over half the people we have on our show nowadays are veterans. And, I think I said this to you, Carlos, that the people I used to doubt what their oath meant to them when they were active, I didn't know how they would act when they were veterans. And now I'm starting to see that the veterans are the ones fighting this fight more than anyone. Almost every organization now has a huge contingent of veterans involved, pushing, doing the hard work. We work with Defensive Democracy, and there's veterans everywhere in that organization. So, and you said to me that I shouldn't have to worry when and if the time comes, not just because veterans are on our side, but because maybe that oath means a little bit more to the active service people than I thought it did. You told me I should not worry, and I kind of want to hear a little more about that.
Yeah. So one of the, my position is an interesting one to be in. I think it's unique in the country in the sense that I see the whole board, because we're right in the center of the entire movement. It doesn't make me better or special. It just means that based on my professional responsibilities, I get to see and connect with a lot of people. And one of the things we set up very early was a commission of retired flag officers to try to suss out what the military was thinking at all points. I mean, at the time, we weren't even worried about the military at all, but I'm a strategist and I have to plan.
You can't.
And part of my planning, no, and I don't want to. That's my job, right? And my job is to win. My job is to play the game and win. And sometimes it's like Ender's Game, if you've ever read that book. My job is to manage. I'm going to lose a lot, but I have to win the war,
you have
right?
To win the war.
Right. And so I have to come at this from a place of emotional maturity and foresight. And I also have to trust my experience and trust my gut. And my gut early days told me that obviously the military was going to be an important backstop and that I should try to connect with the military as best I could without threatening their oath or their loyalty and all of those questions. Thankfully, I had some experience with this because in 2020, I worked on an effort to give soldiers an option for if they didn't want to follow an illegal order for legal counsel. And so I had very, very interesting conversations with very high-ranking military officials, former and current at the time, to talk about how to manage the delicate thing about illegal orders. And I was able to bring that experience to bear this time around in talking to retired flag officers about current leadership and their positioning in the military. And those conversations continue, and I will not get into them, but I will say this. As a general told me, our boys are not going to shoot Americans. That's what they said. And honestly, you talk about veterans and active service members. Honestly, I've had the privilege of knowing them. I worked at the Department of Defense as a contractor under Obama. I've worked in 2020, as I said, with veterans and with active duty to try to suss out really complex diplomacy. I'm doing it now again. Tim, who came up with June 6th, is my media relations guy. I mean, you talk about being surrounded by veterans and realizing Will Attig, who's leading the effort on June 6th in DC, the head of the Union Veterans Council, the AFL-CIO. These are people that when they give you their word, they follow through, even if it costs them.
Yeah.
And I've lived that with them. Because we've had situations where we're caught in a pickle, and it's not convenient for them to say what to do, what they promised me they were going to do.
Yeah.
And then they don't even flinch. And so, forget ideology. What veterans and soldiers have more than most is a character, is a structure of character, is decency. It's they make you a promise. They do what they say they're going to do. They believe in telling the truth. They tell you it's going to get done. It fucking gets done. And that goes back to my days working at DOD. You send an email, you get an answer, you get a fucking result. And that, forget the ideology, just the structure of character.
Content already of their character.
That makes you already more capable in this fight than anybody.
Yeah, it's interesting because
special thing.
One thing I will speak for myself. I didn't know the Veterans Creed, the Veterans Oath, if you will. And thanks to Diana Patton for bringing that to our attention. Someone from Defensive Democracy, a veteran who is one of the people that has helped shape my opinion on veterans.
How we point the other way.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. And the Veterans Creed, in my mind, blew my mind. That oath is more powerful, in my opinion, from someone who has not served or taken the oath, than the actual oath of service. That Veterans Creed speaks to me to what I always hoped the military mindset was. And the more and more people I talk to in the military out of it, like yourself, I'm starting to get a sense that we may have a safety net that a lot of us might have hoped we would, but wasn't sure that we would. And more and more people are letting me feel a little more safe. I hope we don't have to get to that point.
But the other thing is that veterans, and the main point outside of their character that makes them the best stewards for this movement is that the media can't ignore them. The veteran story is no, and I'll tell you that 314 protest. I give good speech sometimes, and that gave a good speech. But the reason that the speech was elevated was because the media was there, because the media can't ignore veterans.
Right.
And so veterans are uniquely positioned because they own the public's respect. As Abraham Lincoln said, they are our main responsibility is to protect them when they return from the battle.
Agreed.
They have, as we said, they have a structure of character that, regardless of ideology, means that they are generally just better formed human beings. And the media has a really hard time ignoring them. And so those three things combine into powerful messengers for America. And for example, if you poll the word democracy, it doesn't do particularly well because, frankly, most people don't know what it is, and they won't admit that they don't know what it is. And by the way, you know that when they say we're a republic, not a democracy.
Oh, I hate it.
Yeah.
Oh, we're a constitutional.
They also
republic.
Socialism is evil. Like, what is socialism?
Well, exactly. Dude, first of all, I just want to clarify for your audience: socialism means the government owns Apple. Anything short of the government owning Apple is not socialism.
Correct.
Literally. So if every private company is owned by the government or controlled by the government, that's socialism. Anything less than that, that is not the right word. Number one. Number two, a republic is a representative democracy. It just means that you vote for representatives who then represent you in Congress or in a body of some sort. That doesn't make it not a democracy. That said, my point is that in a society where a lot of the terminology is hard for people to follow and they don't really know what it means and they're way too proud to admit it, so they just kind of run with their gut.
Here's that arrogant pride we
right. Veterans are very connected to the American people because the idea of service,
you're right,
of military service, is a foundational archetype. In the same way, it's sacred in the way that the archetypes that Republicans are exploiting is sacred. So this is one where the left can own a sacred archetype and can use it.
Like patriotism, we keep saying, take that back. Take the flag back. To reclaim
patriotism, take the flag back. These are basic archetypes that we need to take ownership of as part of our movement because they belong to us just as much as they belong to the other side.
Yeah.
So we need to make those things part of our message, and we need to lead with them.
Makes me sick to see veterans that still support Trump.
Yeah,
like it makes me sick, especially when we're dealing with actual fascism now. Like,
yeah, I mean, I have a lot to think about after our discussion today about how I try and craft and how Jeremy and I try and present information moving forward. I want us to try and be less, not, you know, we talked about this too, about how we're supposed to mock the idiots. We're supposed to mock the assholes, but we can't necessarily let our message be hidden by the mockery. We have to try and be as real as possible. And one thing that I just coalesced in my brain now as you were talking about veterans in the military is maybe we, grassroots side, the non-political arm of the left, whatever we want to call ourselves, need to model ourselves after veterans. Mm-hmm. We need to take on that character of we are true to ourselves. We don't bullshit. We're not going to sit down. We're not going to acquiesce to fascism, but we're also just going to let the content of our character, you have to judge us on that. We're not going to give you anything to judge us.
Well, you know, it's an improvement because at least you're not full of shit, right?
Right.
At least you're connecting to something.
Trying.
Yeah. I just want people to fight for the core values of what we want this country to be. We want.
See, but the thing is that is okay. That is a very, it's like an ideal, but it's practically very difficult. What does it mean to fight for values when you're going to work every day from 9 to 6? You're picking up your kid from your ex-wife who you hate. You're having 3 Jim Beams because that's what you need to be able to fucking go to sleep or smoking a joint. Like it's hard to fight for values within a construct of a life. I'm going to use an analogy, guys. High school is an analogy we all understand.
Oh yeah.
And it's okay to mock. It's even sometimes okay to be a bully, but the bullies are generally hated.
Oh yeah, no one looks at bullies and go, "Man, I want to be that person."
I want to be that person.
That respect is a fear and a distance, not a true admiration.
Exactly. And part of the opportunity for Democrats is that, I mean, my grand theory of politics is, you know, everybody graduated from high school and the beautiful and talented people went to LA and the jocks went to Wall Street and the truly smart geeks went to Palo Alto, and then all the reasonable people stayed home, and then the ones that still wanted to be important but didn't have any of those things, they went to DC, and the ones who had gotten laid in high school became Democrats, and the ones who couldn't became Republicans. And like that's my grand theory of politics. I mention it because,
makes sense.
Well, it kind of does, and I mention it because
it's not a stretch. It's pretty.
Well, because we're dealing with 2 elements of this that are converging to become the modern Republican Party. One is the bro, and this construct of the bro, tech bro, is just a replacement for jock bro, right? We used to be governed by the jocks. Now we're governed by the nerds. And part of that is to understand where these people live. They live in a place of deep insecurity. They want to do you think about Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and all these people? They're all rooted in insecurity, particularly when it comes to women, particularly when it comes to their intelligence and feeling like they're special and all of those things. Mm-hmm. So if we take it back a step and we just look at high school and we look at who these people are, and all of the Republicans, whether it's the Mike Johnsons or, you know, they're either you think about Lindsey Graham, Mike Johnson, all like the gay rumors, right? You're talking about people who are probably gay and are not willing to admit it, right?
Look at Grindr during the RNC. Right. We talk about it all the time.
Right, Grindr during the RNC is a great
coincidence.
And my point is that these people are deeply insecure people.
Yeah.
And they're weak and insecure people who are trying to project as strong and dominant.
Yep.
But it's all a farce. And if Democrats are smart, they will expose them kind of in the way we would have done it in high school. Mm-hmm. And mockery is great when it's used that way.
Correct.
But the problem is when you have to figure out a way to make the insecure people who are not trying to project to be part of your side. And part of the problem with democratic mockery right now is that we're conflating 2 groups of people that are actually very different.
Yep.
One is people who are insecure or hurt for real, who are trying to find meaning and purpose in a world that's complicated, who are facing real challenges, who have nowhere to go as far as they see it, with the Mike Johnsons and the Elon Musks of the world who are also insecure, but are driven by a desire to hurt others because of it.
Yeah, they're revenge seekers.
They're revenge seekers. That's a great way to put it. And so my point to you guys is right now we're talking to both of those groups as if they're one group. And then the people who are insecure, instead of rejecting that, they say, well, fine, if you're going to group me with them, then I'll be just like them. And so what you're seeing, for example, is a crisis among young men listening to Charlie Kirk. Let me tell you, if you look at Charlie Kirk or Ben Shapiro and you think that's a leader, or what's the guy that was in Romania, the Andrew Tate?
Andrew Tate, raping piece of shit.
Let me tell you,
there's something wrong with your definition of pride, of masculinity.
Right. But here's the thing.
He was on Twitter the other day, like, you're not depressed, you're just poor. Like, fuck you, dude. Like,
exactly. And my point, guys, is the people who are healthy, the people who date the models, not because they're trying to be seen with models, but because they attract that kind of whatever the dream life is. They attract it. Those people have no interest in being famous or known. And so there's a lack of a better example in the marketplace. And because we're grouping them all, just because of their insecurity, we're saying you guys are losers. We're forgetting that the motivation matters, right? Why it's not a thing. It's not enough to say, you all suck. You can't say that. And then I say, but please vote for us. What you have to say is, look, if you're insecure in this world, if you don't know where you're headed, first of all,
so are we.
So are we. Literally. And even the people that get laid with the best women or whatever your dream is, the people who are living your dream, they're dealing with the same things that you're worried about.
Right.
And I'm going to show you that. But I'm also going to show you how they succeed in spite of those doubts. I'm going to show you how they work their asses off to deliver actual things, the writers who write the books, the people who put in the work. Let's celebrate those people. You know, it's funny to me, yesterday I was reading a bunch of people calling Bruce Springsteen an idiot. And I'm sitting there going,
I know.
Look,
I don't even like his music, but the guy's not an idiot.
If you being right requires Bruce Springsteen to be an idiot, then you're fucking wrong.
Yeah, like, sorry.
You know, he's not
that's
an
like
idiot.
people who take a mock Jon Stewart. Let me tell you, Jon Stewart, take aside from what his job has been and what he does for a living, that guy is not an idiot. And if you listen to what he says and think he's an idiot, you're the idiot.
Right. But my point is that let's not even label them back. Let's
call
just say,
them idiots.
Right. Yeah. No, let's just say, look, something has to be sacred. Respect has to exist.
You're right.
If you can't respect Bruce Springsteen for a career of talent, a career of service,
the guy's
then
clearly talented.
Something is wrong with you.
Well, they're obsessed.
And we are going to need to build new structures within you so that you start respecting something.
Well, it's the same thing as, obviously, you know, Trump constantly mocks Taylor Swift. But the average
That's what I was going to say.
The poor white person who mocks Taylor Swift, for example, what you're just mocking the success of a woman, because as far as billionaires go, she built that herself, people. Like, she's not selling Chinese products and getting you to buy it.
No, but
here's her, and you don't have to like her music, but if you don't recognize that she's clearly talented and business savvy, you're an idiot.
Well, but there's that, but that's actually, that kind of brings up the mistake. Is
interesting.
We need to create structures so that people can respect other people.
Okay.
Especially people when they achieve things. Bruce Springsteen should be above reproach to anybody.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Because if he's not, then what the fuck do we have to look forward to?
He's also one of the only people fighting for veterans.
Right. And all of that. I mean, the guy has earned it, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
De Niro's another one of them.
Has earned it.
De Niro has been coming out.
But here's the other part of this, which I think is interesting. But don't mock Kid Rock while you do it.
This is an interesting,
because
it's hard.
No, I know it's hard, but here's why.
That's so hard.
Because that guy, whether you like him or not,
I saw him in concert when I was younger, man. I'll admit it.
He's worked his ass off. And my point is that if we're going to demand structures of respect, then we have to apply them as well.
Set the example.
And at least say, look, I disagree with the guy on everything he believes, but he has earned public attention through musical talent.
Fair
and
enough.
I can acknowledge that. And I'm not going to demean his world because, by the way, there is a world where that guy is more respected than Taylor Swift. We just don't see that world.
If
There's
I'm
literally in America where Taylor Swift is less respected than Kid Rock. And we can't imagine it because we don't come from there. But we don't want to alienate that entire fucking country.
If I'm going to say I don't like Bruce Springsteen's music, but I respect that he's built a career off what is talent and he should be listened to in that regard, even, you're right, I have to give that same platform to Kid Rock, and then I have to rely on let the message speak for itself.
100%. And then that's not to say that you're agreeing with them or whatever. It's simply saying we're going to value structures, because one of the things that has happened, guys, which I think is hugely problematic, is that we've gone from Audrey Hepburn to Cardi B. And that evolution means that we've gotten rid of a lot of constructs. The main one that we've gotten rid of is shame. And let me tell you something. Short of law, the only form of human accountability that works is shame.
We had the stockades back in the day.
And if we don't have shame as a functional accountability construct, because people can be shameless and still be celebrated, then we don't have any way of reining in people like Donald Trump.
Right,
Carlos, I've said the exact same thing. You got to shame these people. People get mad at me when I say stuff like that. I'm like, no,
it's not mockery.
If you say something to somebody, they may not right away agree or know what you're saying, but they're gonna go home and they're gonna feel shitty about themselves, and that's
not
point.
Mockery. There's a difference.
No. There's a difference.
Dislike something about themselves.
We also have to model it, guys. And my point is that liberals, you can't just be watching the Kardashians and then say reality TV sucks. You can't be a hypocrite. You have to be better. But if you want to model a better society, you have to be better than the Kardashians.
Yes.
We just have to be.
Yeah, that's the bare.
You just have to be fucking better. Yeah. And I don't care
Should be hard.
what anybody says. You just have to be fucking better than that. Because if you accept that as our normal, then Donald Trump becomes president. Because Donald Trump is president in a Kim Kardashian world. Absolutely.
Jesus.
So we have to set some fucking standards for basic human behavior.
Absolutely. Carlos literally just proved your idiocracy point. That's what this whole thing was. No, it's true, because we've let the bar just roll off into the sand and disappear into the ocean.
And then we're trying to have our cake and eat it too. We're trying to say we have standards, but we're also fomenting this culture of no standards.
Yes.
We have standards and we want other people to have standards. Guess what?
Right.
Again, my uncle was Oscar de la Renta. I got to watch class and sophistication and education at the highest level.
Yeah, well, some of it's closed in the past.
The ideals that those things created, the representations that they created, when people looked at Audrey Hepburn or at Grace Kelly, they saw a vision of femininity that set an example, right? And it's not to say that anything else was wrong. It just meant that vision was attractive. Clark Gable represented masculinity in a certain way, right? And I'm just
so many people, that's still the archetype.
If we don't have those archetypes, if it's a race to the bottom, then Donald Trump is president. Because Donald Trump, in a Cardi B / fucking Joe Rogan world, Donald Trump is president. That makes perfect fucking sense. That completes the picture. So
it does.
A better fucking society, man.
But it's funny because I don't believe you're talking that we have to readopt. We don't have to readopt antiquated notions of masculinity and femininity.
We just have to.
We need to have a base standard. We just have to value. You can still be whatever you want to be, but we have to hold people to a standard that there's a level of play.
More than that, we build new structures to account for new equalities.
Gotcha.
Recognize. So, for example, the trans community, part of the reason that people are having confusion around the trans debate is because they don't know what it is.
You're right.
I had to educate myself on it.
Right. And so can we have an educational structure to show people that what it's like to be trans, what that means, where it comes from? It's same with the entire LGBTQ community. Everything. Can we value process? Can we value discipline? Can we value character and then use that as a starting point.
That's what.
If we don't
I
follow
wish,
that, guys, we're fucking.
I
doomed.
just wish these Republican men because what happens is they see a beautiful trans woman on the internet and they feel some type of way, and they don't like that about themselves. So now they want to go ahead and hate the trans community.
That's why they want to ban porn.
Instead of just accepting the fact that you saw a beautiful trans woman. Like, it's okay to be attracted visually. And then, like I said this on stream the other day, like I see trans women all the time online. I'm like, Jesus, they are absolutely gorgeous. It doesn't mean I'm sexually attracted to them. That's a whole difference.
But by the way,
so
that inner shame that you're talking about doesn't mean I'm sexually attracted.
Yeah, no.
If you see a woman and you are sexually attracted to a woman,
yeah,
and you don't do anything about it, you're just sexually attracted to a woman. What the fuck is the qualitative difference?
Yep.
Whether that person had a gender transition at any point in their life, it does not matter.
Because you know what's funny? The people that
it doesn't make you. By the way, it doesn't make you gay. It doesn't make you.
Thank you.
So it's
I
funny.
said the same thing the other day.
Because it's funny how the right tries to argue what masculinity and femininity is, and then when you show them an example of femininity in a trans woman, for example, they're like, but you tricked me. No, you're attracted to femininity. What I think people don't understand is, in a lot of ways, obviously they don't understand the difference between gender identity and sexual identity and all that. But your sexual identity, like, you could find something attractive, but like that doesn't mean you have to act on it. You could appreciate and admire
ideally it means you don't act on it, because again, going back to fucking basic standards of behavior, one of the things that's happening is that young people today feel like they're entitled to sex.
Yes. Yeah.
And the whole incel community that dominates the right is that. And my point to you guys is, if we just come back one step and build the following structure to say, none of us are guaranteed sex. But the way to fix it is not to demand it. It's to make yourself more interesting.
Yeah.
And here's how we're going to do that. You're going to educate yourself. You're going to educate yourself. You're going to try stand-up comedy. You're going to learn a musical instrument. You're going to equip yourself. So what I want every fucking incel in America to do, rather than bitch about it on the internet, is drop a list of things that would make you the most interesting guy you've ever met, and then go out and learn those things, even if you learn them poorly. And fucking try all of them and try to become that person. Because I had an epiphany when I was 16 years old that still governs my life. And it's a very simple epiphany, but it runs everything I do to this day. Just imagine the coolest old guy you can imagine, or old woman you can imagine, or old person. And then make every decision they would have made. And that way you always know what the fuck to do. It's so easy. And so just imagine the coolest, most interesting person you can imagine, and make every decision they would have made.
Right.
And if you do it without making an exception, you're guaranteed to become them. It's not that fucking hard.
How about this?
Stop whining and bitching and not being willing to do the work, and then complaining that you're not getting your quote unquote due. You're not due shit. If you want a woman to sleep with you, she has to be attracted to you. And if women don't just become attracted to your physical self, dude, if you're amazing, if you're awesome, if you're funny, you're going to have a way better shot. So my message to anybody who's insecure about anything, forget sex. Be more interesting. Become more interesting. Do the fucking work. Learn.
That's what
Spend the 10,000 hours. That's what it takes.
Goofy. That was my thing.
There you go.
So, all right. That's the thing.
I hate to cut I really would love to keep the conversation going, but I do have to get somewhere.
Well, maybe we'd love to already invite you back, because like I got to tell you,
this has been a lot of fun.
I'd be happy to come back, guys.
Yeah, because usually we only go an hour, and we're almost at an hour and a half already.
No, but we'll definitely have you back,
before you go, though, I do want to transition into the websites. If anybody wants additional information, they can go to AmericanOpposition.org. That is in the description of the video. You can find it there, as well as the UniteForVeterans.org. I'm sorry, I had brain fart there again.
UniteForVeterans.org is very important. That's for the DC protests on June 6th. 5051 Veterans is running the national protest on June 6th. So make sure you follow up with them. And then AmericanOpposition.org is our website. Please sign up for our newsletter. Please donate if you can. Fundraising is clearly just not my strength.
Ours either, man.
We need to raise a bunch of money. And then we also keep what you're showing now is the Trump Administrative Action Database. This is the database that's it's populated by people in government at the Department of Justice and at other places. They don't do it as often as they'd like, but what they do is they document everything, and then they upload it to this database where we also back it up overseas. And the idea is to have a full compendium of all of Trump's illicit actions, so that because I'm interested in two things. One is documenting what's happening, and two is eventually we're going to have to earn each other's trust and reconcile with each other as a country. We're going to have to find our way again. And truth and reconciliation and accountability, meaning legal accountability, moral accountability, all of those things are going to be part of our future. And so this resource is meant to make sure that we have a clear record of what happened. We're also going to be doing some witness projects to get the experiences of victims, like people who've been sent to overseas camps, etc. We're going to get those stories. And we're going to compound everything into one experience, a museum of the Trump experience, if you will, so that we can all start from a baseline of understanding and shared understanding when it comes to truth and reconciliation.
Building a case.
Yeah, it's essentially what we're doing. That's what we're doing.
I like this. I really like this.
Yeah, I'm going to actually spend some time in there. I'm going to start using it for show ideas because
honestly,
this is the type of thing that the media should, not us, mainstream media should have a ticker on the bottom of every damn show that shows this illegal action today, and they're not.
They should keep it. They should keep a record, and more importantly, and you know what? One of the things that really bothers me is we're living history, right? All of these protests, February 5th, the 17th, the 4th, the 6th, the 17th of March, 14th of March, all of these protests. Nobody's writing down this history because the media blockade means that we're not recording what happened.
That's what we're trying to do.
I want to take and thank you for that, because honestly, not about me, but for a second, I just want to take a moment to reflect on 5051. 5051 is a grassroots movement born on Reddit. It was born alongside my call for February 5th. I honestly don't know who made the call first, but it was simultaneous, and we grew up together, if you will. And I'm so proud. I'm so proud of those guys. They're decentralized. They vote on everything. They model the best of democracy. They show up. They organize, and they help organizers, and they fucking deliver. And Indivisible has done the same thing for the past 8 years or something. So I just want to take a moment to say, the people who have shown up for this battle deserve way more credit than they're getting. The media needs to do, if nothing else, the job of documenting this history. Yep. And I want every fucking American who hears me to just send a quick note to your local 5051 chapter, or to your local Indivisible chapter, or to Leah, or to Ezra, or to anybody in this movement, and just say fucking thank you, because those people are doing the thankless work. And I can tell you from personal experience, it sucks. It just sucks to be in the middle of it. Leadership sucks. It is thankless. It should be more thankful. Try to help these groups, try to fund them, try to support them, make sure you show up. That's literally all that we want, is for you to show up. So please show the fuck up, because if I'm going to risk my life, and I am risking my life every day, please don't fucking leave me hanging. That's all I ask. So the same goes for all of these groups. So thank you guys.
Yeah, I'm actually now involved with the local 5051 in my area. I live in a small city in Pennsylvania. I live in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. It's only 35,000 people, but it's very, very Trump-heavy voters.
Hey, you got John Fetterman. Thanks, Dick.
I voted for this son of a bitch, too. I left him a nice voicemail one time after all this.
To be fair, he's broken and he needs to get back together.
He's got medical problems that he needs to get treatment
for. Better treatment.
He's seriously though, he has a medical issue at the moment.
No, and by the way, the main thing we can say to John Fetterman, which by the way goes for every Republican too, it's okay to be broken. The important thing is to try to get better.
Thank you. You can change. You can change, but it is the hardest thing in your life. You said your epiphany at 16. I wish I had mine at 16. I had mine 4 years ago on February 20th. about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to move forward. And it all came down to one word, and it was unity. Like, we have to be a united front in order to, because we are dealing with actual fascism.
And I think we are more united.
I mean, they're importing white people from South Africa.
They're literally
importing cartel members.
Giving refugee status to the worst people in modern history.
Wait.
Biggest racist bigots on the planet.
They showed up,
man.
right? My favorite part is when they landed. When they were landed and they were greeted by Trump's entourage people spraying them with happy juice, and they showed up with their 15 pieces of designer luggage, and we're supposed to pretend that they're refugees.
He brought out Chapo's fucking family across the border.
That's true.
Dude, they literally went to Tijuana and walked across the border and was like, "Hi, come on, let's go."
90% of the people he sent to El Salvador have no criminal record whatsoever. But he's importing members of the cartel's family.
I know, what the fuck.
Wait, all we gotta do is get
reality
pictures.
We live
No.
in,
This is very easy. We just gotta get pictures of those people he imported, their knuckles, and we could just put whatever we want on them with Photoshop, and everyone will believe it, right?
That was crazy.
Yeah. No, that was. I mean, again, but it goes back to my first point, which I made is, guys, it's so ridiculous. It is not believable.
Yep.
And so we just have to deal with that reality. The fact that if you take somebody who's not fully informed and you tell them word for word what Trump has done, they will not believe you because it sounds ludicrous.
You're right.
Dude, I feel like you gotta feed them little tidbits. Like, did you hear what Trump did? And just say like something.
Cram it down.
No, you gotta
wave of information, dude.
Pick your information, pick your lane, connect it to their experience, and hit them there. But you can't fucking just say, by the way, he imported 15 members of El Chapo's family. Because people go, there's no fucking way he did that.
That didn't happen. No, Jeremy, I know,
right?
I think you agree with me. We need to have Carlos back just for like a normal topic.
Are you kidding me, dude?
Because it would be fun as shit to just go over some hot topics. So we'll definitely get that on the book.
Yeah, and
happy to join you guys.
I apologize about the beginning of the show. Like I said, I had to restart my computer, open everything back up, set it back up, and I had total brain lock at the beginning. So I apologize.
No, we're good.
Carlos, thank you so much for being on the show, man. We have a lot of
absolutely my pleasure, guys.
We got to work together somehow, man. Any way we can help. I know we're small, just this humble little channel, but anything we can do to help. Guys, like I said, I want to be there. I want to be on the ground. I've been 6 protests. Mike's been to 3. I've been to 3 states now. You know what I mean? Just as a result of this. And I've even said on stream, I am prepared to go to jail this year. As a matter of fact, the first 50.
Let's make sure you don't. If anybody's going to go to jail, it's probably going to be me. And I'll tell you what. We can beat. The final thing I want to say is, we can win this fight without anybody going to jail, anybody dying. This is easy, guys.
It is.
The nice thing about winning this is that it's a fucking choice we can make.
Yeah.
Winning is a choice. Not only because this tyranny requires our submission, but because Donald Trump is a historically weak human being.
Yeah.
Extremely.
He is extremely, maybe more so than anybody. He's literally the most ridiculous human being anybody's ever been aware of.
It's a cartoon character.
So he's a cartoon character. And so beating this guy, he's not strategic. He's not smart. He doesn't have a spine. By the way, he lacks all of the qualities that dictators need. He has no discipline. He has no sense of order.
That's a good point.
He can't actually win. What we are doing right now is allowing ourselves to lose. He's not winning. We're allowing ourselves to lose. And so my main message is, this is a fight that is as easy to win as choosing to win it. So fucking make that choice. Join us on the streets. Sign up for our newsletter. You will receive regular guidance on what you can do to make this fucking country, to deliver this victory. And when it's done, you won't have to thank us. You won't owe us anything. You won't have to do anything. You will just know that you participated in saving this country, and live your life and raise your kids in a better country. And let's build an America we can be fucking proud of. And that is my only message. Beyond that, show up on June 6th. And thank you so much, guys, for having me. I really appreciate it. It is an honor to meet you. I know you say it's a small platform, guys. This is what we need, is people getting activated through people like you. So thank you for what you're doing. And if you do make it to DC, I'm probably going to be surrounded by a lot of security and other shit, but please try to find me.
Absolutely.
Please try to connect
don't
with
run
me.
up and be like, Carlo.
Yeah, no, they will take you out.
Oh, shit.
I'm a light heavyweight boxer. You probably don't want to do that.
Yeah, don't just jump at him.
Just make sure I register that it's you.
Wait, would you be willing to do a charity event between you and Logan Paul or Jake Paul? For right?
No, because I'm 44, bro, and
you'd still beat the shit out of them.
Probably, but you know what? Guys, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. And I'll be in touch. I think I emailed you my phone number. Please feel free to text me anything I can do to help or whatever. Any information that we can spread.
And Jeremy is pernicious. He will never, ever, ever stop bugging you from now on.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, because we're the same, like you said earlier. Like we're the network that isn't about money. We don't even turn on ad revenue for our lives. We sell a couple things of merch that I made barely.
That no one's bought yet.
You know what I mean? We don't sell shit on our TikTok page.
But I would say, Jeremy, that's why you can't make it to DC, so you should probably change that.
I know,
Yeah,
but
I
just feel like I just want the message to be on point. I don't want it to be about the money.
I feel like crazy person. I can't ask even my friends for money.
I hate it.
I hate it with a passion.
It's
and so
Stevie's.
I just hired like a top fundraiser to become our fundraiser, because the reality is, and what I'm learning is that we need resources, man. This movement
got their skills, and we need
and we need to fucking own that part of it and just fucking do the thing that sucks. But we need to raise money because this movement needs it.
You're right. Well, they're funded.
All right.
So we need to fund
thank you so much, everybody. Please feel free to go to, again, our link trees as we're talking about funding. We desperately do need funding. We've been trying, like you said about struggling for funding, we've been trying for a year and a half to raise like 10 grand, and we've not broken 3 yet, but we do appreciate all those that have donated. We understand that times are tough.
And that money did get us to DC, so thank you.
Yeah, we did manage to go to Washington, D.C. as a result and live stream that, do our first mobile broadcast. It was a lot of fun. We learned a lot. So,
well, if you guys make it to DC, the incentive is I will happily give you an in-person interview in DC.
So I'll sleep in my car now if I have to go.
And I have to give you some.
I'm not playing.
That shit's. I'll give you an in-person interview, and I will try to facilitate interviews with some of the other people that are going to be involved. And all I can tell you is we haven't announced them yet, but when we do, that DC protest is going to blow everybody's fucking mind. The people that are going to show up for it are going to be amazing.
All right, just expect me to be there then. How about that? I'll figure this shit out. I'm the guy who makes commitments and then figures it how the fuck he's going to do it later.
Fucking right. Hey, guys.
Thank you so much, man. I will be in touch. And thanks everybody for watching. Please like, subscribe, share the videos, all that good shit. Have a good rest of your Sunday. Love you all. And thanks for everything. This has been fun. Have a good day, Carlos.